I want to talk to you about something unfolding tomorrow, because the more time I've spent looking at this alignment, the more convinced I've become that it could be one of the strongest personal breakthrough windows we get all year. On March 31st at 9:40 p.m., the Sun in Aries forms an exact trine to Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius. And I know, if you don't follow astrology closely, that can sound like a pile of technical language. But stay with me, because what this configuration points to in real human terms is extraordinary, especially if you're one of 3 zodiac signs that are already standing right in the middle of this energy. The simplest way I can explain it is this. Tomorrow opens a brief but unusually powerful doorway for shadow integration. And yes, that phrase sounds a little intense, but what I mean is actually very practical. The parts of you that you've hidden, edited down, silenced, or felt secretly ashamed of can suddenly stop feeling like burdens and start functioning like strengths. Things you've carried as emotional weight can become clarity, magnetism, confidence, creative force. And if you've been feeling a strange internal pressure lately, like something real inside you is tired of waiting and wants out, there is a reason for that. I'm going to come back to that later because it matters more than most people realize. But first, I need to give you some context because this isn't happening on its own. We are already moving through extremely charged cosmic conditions. And I don't mean that in a vague, dramatic way. I mean, there are multiple major transits stacking on top of one another right now. And together they're creating this sense that reality is shifting underneath our feet. March and April of 2026 are not ordinary months. Earlier this month, we had a total lunar eclipse in Virgo. Jupiter stationed direct in Cancer. The Sun moved into Aries at the vernal equinox just days ago. A solar eclipse in Aries is coming in mid-April. But the deepest underlying influence, the one I think many of us have been feeling in the background, whether we have language for it or not, is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. That's a once in 36 years alignment, and it's happening at the Aries point, the very beginning of the zodiac. It's hard to overstate how symbolic that is. This is reset energy, system reboot energy, the kind of astrology that can make old maps feel unusable overnight. Saturn is structure, responsibility, rules, material reality, the frameworks we rely on to make life feel stable. Neptune dissolves. It blurs edges. It rules dreams, longing, fantasy, spirituality, and sometimes confusion. When Saturn and Neptune come together, hard lines start melting. Narratives that looked solid begin to unravel. The systems, roles, and identities we thought we could count on stop holding shape in the same way. And honestly, I've been feeling this personally, and I have a feeling a lot of you have too. There's this strange atmosphere right now where pretending feels impossible. Pretending you still believe old stories. Pretending you know exactly where you're going. Pretending the same strategies are still going to work. A lot of us are realizing we cannot keep moving through life in the same costume. So that's the larger weather pattern. That's the backdrop we're living inside. And right in the middle of all of it, tomorrow, the Sun-Lilith trine arrives. And I really think this transit is offering something essential. In a moment when old structures are dissolving and so many people feel disoriented, this alignment can give you access to a kind of inner coherence, a kind of psychological armor, not because it hardens you, but because it brings your split-off power back online. So before I explain exactly how that works, let's talk about what Black Moon Lilith actually is. Black Moon Lilith is not a planet, and it's not an asteroid. It's more abstract than that. And honestly, that abstraction is part of why it has such a powerful symbolic charge. Astronomically, Lilith marks the lunar apogee, the point in the moon's orbit where the moon is farthest from Earth. It is the point of greatest distance, greatest removal, greatest emptiness. And astrologically, that distance becomes meaningful. Lilith describes the parts of us that have been pushed out, shut away, rejected, or treated as unacceptable. It speaks to instinct, desire, anger, truth, need, sexuality, sovereignty, and all the places where we learned that being fully ourselves might cost us love or belonging. The myth around Lilith adds another layer to this. In Jewish folklore, Lilith is described as Adam's first wife, formed from the same earth, not made from his body, not created to be beneath him. She demanded equality. She refused submission, and when that equality wasn't allowed, she chose exile instead of obedience. She left the garden rather than abandon herself, and because she would not accept control, she was recast as dangerous, monstrous, demonic. She became the figure people project fear onto when they don't know what to do with a woman, or really with any human being who cannot be dominated. And that is why this archetype still hits so hard. Lilith represents the part of every one of us that would rather risk rejection than betray what is true. That part of us doesn't care much about approval. It doesn't live to be easy to manage. It doesn't feel safe performing a lie just to stay included. But when Lilith energy is repressed, it doesn't disappear. It tends to go underground. It can surface as sabotage, resentment, compulsive behavior, shame, chaotic attraction patterns, sudden rage, or the feeling that some vital part of you only appears when things are already falling apart. That's often what happens when your raw truth has been denied for too long. But when Lilith is consciously integrated, it changes form. It becomes grounded authenticity. It becomes the capacity to stay present with intensity without collapsing. It becomes self-possession, the kind of confidence that doesn't need to advertise itself because it is no longer performing for external permission. And that's why I keep calling tomorrow a portal. Because for a brief period, the distance between your conscious identity and this exiled power narrows enough for real integration to happen. Now let's talk about why this transit is so smooth. On March 31st, the Sun at 11 degrees and 20 minutes of Aries forms an exact trine to Lilith at 11 degrees and 20 minutes of Sagittarius. In astrology, a trine is a 120-degree angle, and it's considered one of the most harmonious aspects. Trines describe flow, ease, alignment. They create conditions where energies support one another rather than clash. It's like walking through a door that opens before you even touch it. And because Aries and Sagittarius are both fire signs, this isn't just any trine. It's a fire trine. Fire is spirit, instinct, inspiration, courage, action, creative force, a desire, and the willingness to move. So the kind of shadow integration happening here isn't heavy or slow. It's vivid, immediate, alive. That matters, because normally shadow work is not comfortable. Normally it takes friction. It asks you to confront what you've avoided. The ego resists, the mind rationalizes, the body tightens. There's usually some kind of internal fight involved, but this alignment works differently. The Sun symbolizes the conscious self, your identity, the part of you you know how to name. Lilith symbolizes the unclaimed, marginalized, instinctive self. And tomorrow, those two parts are not at war. They are in conversation. They are speaking the same elemental language, which means you may not need a dramatic ritual or years of analysis to access this energy. You may simply feel able to be more honest than usual, more direct, more embodied, less apologetic. And when I really understood that, it clicked for me why this transit feels so powerful. You're not being asked to become someone new. You're reclaiming something that was always yours, but you're reclaiming it without the usual drag of shame. This is available to everyone in some way, but 3 zodiac signs are going to feel it especially strongly. And if you have your sun, moon, or rising in one of these signs, I think tomorrow could feel like a genuine ignition point. Aries, reclaiming the untamed self. If you're an Aries, or you have important Aries placements, this transit is deeply personal. The sun is moving through your sign right now, energizing your first house of identity, body, self-expression, and how you enter the world. Lilith, meanwhile, is in your ninth house, the place connected with philosophy, belief systems, truth, perspective, and the deeper worldview that shapes your choices. Here's what I think has been happening for you. Aries energy is naturally direct. It moves fast. It acts on instinct. It doesn't like waiting for permission. But the world isn't always kind to that quality. A lot of Aries people grow up being told they are too much, too fast, too sharp, too intense, too confrontational, too impatient. You learn quickly that your raw fire makes other people uncomfortable. And with Saturn and Neptune moving through Aries now, some of you have also been carrying this really strange pressure around identity. Like parts of your old self are dissolving, but the new version isn't fully formed yet. You may have been taking on weight that doesn't belong to you. You may have been questioning your direction, your confidence, even your right to move the way you naturally move. But tomorrow, the sun in your first house trines Lilith in your ninth, and something clarifies. This is the kind of transit that can reactivate your intellectual and spiritual independence all at once. Lilith in the ninth often points to beliefs you've kept quiet because you knew they might upset people. Opinions about religion, politics, power, culture, truth. The parts of your worldview that don't fit neatly into what your environment expects from you. Tomorrow, that self-censorship weakens. You may feel sudden certainty around what you stand for. You may feel less willing to package yourself into something more agreeable. And the gift here is fearless authenticity. When Aries stops trying to sound softer than they are, stops shrinking their will to protect other people from discomfort, their energy becomes astonishingly clear. People know where they stand with you. Opportunities that match your actual nature begin finding you faster. Misaligned situations start falling away more quickly. You become less available for confusion. And that kind of clarity is powerful. It acts like a filter. It draws in what belongs and pushes out what doesn't. So if you're Aries and you felt pressure building around your voice, your convictions, your identity, tomorrow may feel like the moment your internal fire finally stops negotiating with itself. Sagittarius, the sovereign outsider. Sagittarius, I have to be honest, I think this is one of the signs feeling this most intensely, because Lilith has been moving through your sign since December 2025. So this has not been light or superficial for you. Lilith in the first house is personal. It gets into your body, your image, your presence, your relationship to visibility. It can make you hyper-aware of how strongly people react to you, even when you're not trying to provoke anything. Some people get magnetized. Other people get defensive immediately. And it can stir up very old material around being the outsider, the truth teller, the one whose existence alone seems to challenge the environment. So if you're Sagittarius, chances are you've already been in deep shadow work whether you intended to be or not. You may have been confronting anger, desire, loneliness, self-protection, shame around how much freedom you actually need, and the fear that being fully yourself might alienate you from the people you love. You may have been swinging between hiding to keep the peace and suddenly erupting because you can't tolerate one more moment of self-betrayal. And then tomorrow, the sun in Aries lights up your fifth house of creativity, romance, pleasure, performance, and joy, forming that exact trine to Lilith in your first. This is huge, because what the fifth house offers is permission to express, to create, to play, to be visible without apologizing for taking up psychic space. So what happens tomorrow is not just healing, it's activation. You start seeing that your darkness, your wildness, your refusal to conform, your intense truthfulness, these are not the traits that make you difficult to love. They are the traits that make you creatively alive. The power unlocking for you is magnetic sovereignty, the right to feel deeply without toning it down, the right to speak from instinct, the right to explore pleasure, desire, and creativity without needing a moral stamp of approval from the outside world. And once that clicks, the effect is potent. Your presence gets stronger. Your romantic energy gets louder. Your creative field expands. You inspire other people not by playing nice with convention, but by embodying a freedom they secretly wish they had claimed themselves. Sagittarius, tomorrow can feel like a return to your own untamed center. Leo, the end of performance. Leo, you are the third point in this fire activation. Even though neither the Sun nor Lilith is currently in Leo, both placements are forming flowing trines to any planets you have there. And because the Sun is your ruler, strong solar aspects always matter. The Sun in Aries is energizing your ninth house of higher understanding, expansion, teaching, and worldview. Lilith in Sagittarius is energizing your fifth house of pleasure, romance, creativity, artistry, and self-display. So what do I think this is surfacing for you? I think it's showing you the difference between true radiance and performance. Leo energy naturally wants to shine. It wants to create, express, warm, attract, and be witnessed. There is nothing wrong with that. But the shadow side can be exhausting. The pressure to keep the image beautiful, to stay lovable, to maintain the applause, to hide the messy parts, the taboo desires, the darker creative impulses, the moods, the contradictions, all because you don't want to lose approval. With Lilith moving through your fifth house, those hidden parts have been stirring, your desire nature, your rebellious artistry, your more primal forms of creativity and pleasure, and the Sun in your ninth house is now offering the perspective shift that can help you integrate all of it. Tomorrow may bring a profound realization. Real authority does not need an audience to certify it. That is the awakening here. The death of performance as identity. The superpower opening for you is unconditional self-authorization. By allowing your creativity, your sensuality, and your more complicated emotional truths to exist without dressing them up for public approval, you stop leaking power through performance. You step off the stage you built to keep everyone happy and start creating from something much deeper. And the irony is beautiful. The less obsessed you become with maintaining the audience, the more compelling your energy gets. Your charisma sharpens, your influence deepens. People start feeling something real from you, and reality is always more magnetic than polish. Leo, tomorrow can help you remember that your power was never meant to depend on applause. Now, if you're listening to this, and you're not Aries, Sagittarius, or Leo, that doesn't mean this transit has nothing to offer you. Not at all. These three signs are simply in the strongest geometric position to feel it directly. But the portal itself is collective. This is a day when shadow integration becomes easier for everyone. The parts of you you've been editing down can come forward with less resistance. The instinct you've been suppressing can get louder. The truth you've been afraid to embody can feel more accessible. So even if you're not a fire sign, this is a good moment to ask yourself a few real questions. What part of me have I exiled because I learned it made people uncomfortable? What desire, truth, or emotional reality have I been trying to keep hidden in order to stay acceptable? What might happen if, just for one day, I stopped trimming myself to fit the room? And I say that because in times like these, When the larger structures are changing and old narratives are coming apart, fragmentation is exhausting. If you're split within yourself, if half your energy is always busy managing the parts you're afraid to reveal, you don't have your full power available. But when you integrate shadow, when the hidden part is no longer fighting the visible part, there is a kind of sovereignty that emerges. And I think that sovereignty is going to matter a lot in the months ahead. Now let me come back to the thing I teased earlier, because this is the detail that really stopped me in my tracks. Both the Sun and Lilith reach exactly 11 degrees and 20 minutes tomorrow. In esoteric astrology, there's a symbolic system called the Sabian symbols, where each degree of the zodiac is associated with a specific image. And when you round 11 degrees and 20 minutes up, you get the 12th degree. The Sabian symbol for 12 Aries is a triangularly shaped flight of wild geese. The symbol for 12 Sagittarius is a flag that turns into an eagle that crows. And when I looked at those together, I got chills. Think about the first image, wild geese in perfect formation. They're not obeying human rules. They're not taking instructions from social systems. They're moving according to a deeper intelligence, a larger rhythm, a natural order that exists beyond approval. Then look at the second image, a flag, which is just an idea, a banner, an abstract principle, suddenly becoming alive. It transforms into an eagle, a living creature, and then it cries out. It announces itself. It gives voice to what was previously only symbolic. So when I put those two images together through this trine, what I hear is this. There is a truth inside you that has been alive for a long time, but not yet fully spoken. A conviction, a philosophy, a deeper instinct. Something that made you feel like a heretic because it didn't align with the dominant story around you. And tomorrow that truth can stop being theoretical. It can become embodied. It can move. It can speak. And the beautiful part is that this is not chaos for the sake of chaos. This is not rebellion disconnected from purpose. The wild geese image suggests alignment with natural order, while the eagle image suggests a truth bold enough to vocalize itself. So the deeper message of this portal may be that your most uncompromising truth is not separate from divine timing or from cosmic intelligence. Your wildness is not the opposite of alignment. Your authenticity is not the opposite of wisdom. In some cases, they may be exactly the same thing. So what might tomorrow actually feel like? For some people, I think it's going to arrive as clarity. A truth you've been circling suddenly becomes obvious. You know what you need to say. You know what boundary needs to be drawn. You know what part of yourself needs to stop living in exile. For others, it may feel like relief. Like the weight of trying to remain acceptable gets lighter for a moment, and in that opening, you remember how much energy you've been spending on self-censorship. Some of you may surprise yourselves. You may say something more direct than usual. You may make a decision you've been avoiding. You may feel more courage around desire, more honesty around identity, more willingness to be seen as you actually are. And I want to be clear. This is not about becoming reckless. It's not about burning down your life because one transit told you to. This is about becoming more whole. About recognizing that the shadow is not some foreign invader. It is the unlived portion of you. The part that got pushed into hiding because it wasn't convenient or acceptable in the environments that shaped you. Tomorrow offers a rare reduction in resistance. A chance to let the conscious self and the instinctive self work together instead of against one another. And that kind of integration can feel incredibly empowering because suddenly you are not splitting yourself in two just to function. That's also why I think this matters so much in the bigger picture. We are still in the field of that Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries. Structures are dissolving, identities are changing, Illusions are thinning out. And in a period like that, the people who stay at war with themselves are going to burn through enormous amounts of energy. But the people who can integrate, who can bring the shadow home, who can stop treating their deepest truth like a threat, are going to have a steadiness that looks almost supernatural from the outside. Not because life becomes easy, but because all of their power starts moving in one direction. There's a Carl Jung quote that feels especially relevant here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Tomorrow gives us a chance to make something unconscious conscious, to stop being dragged around by unclaimed desire, unspoken truth, unnamed rage, or hidden brilliance, to stop calling it fate when it has really been disowned power. And if that sounds dramatic, maybe it is, but I genuinely think this is the kind of transit that can shift something important if you meet it halfway. So tomorrow, March 31st, I would really encourage you to work with this energy instead of shrinking from it. If something in you wants to be seen, let it be seen. If there is a truth pressing at the back of your throat, let it come forward. If the part of you that has been in exile wants to come home, open the door. The exact trine perfects at 9:45 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and the energy is strongest for roughly 24 hours on either side, so this is not a huge window, but it is a potent one. And if you are one of those 3 fire signs, Aries, Sagittarius, or Leo, I really would not underestimate what tomorrow could unlock for you. This is more than a mood, more than a passing influence. For some of you, this may feel like a real awakening, a raw, radical, beautifully untamed return to self. If you stayed with me all the way through this, thank you. And if this resonated, if you felt something click while listening, subscribing would genuinely help support the channel. I'm covering the major astrological shifts as they unfold, and I'd love to have you here for the next one. And definitely leave me a comment, because I really want to know what this is bringing up for you. Are you already feeling it build? Are you one of the fire signs? What part of yourself are you ready to stop hiding? I read the comments, and honestly, one of my favorite parts of this work is seeing how differently these transits move through real people's lives. Take good care of yourself, trust what's waking up inside you, and I'll see you in the next video.